أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد وانتشت روحي وصار الدمع يجري يا إلهي خذ بقلبي للرشاد.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for joining us for this presentation on mediation in marriage, a basic course. This will be part 1 of a 2-part series. For the contents of this presentation, we will look at a few items. Firstly, we will look at the counselor, his qualities, the initial steps that needs to be followed in the mediation process, then gathering of information, how it should be done and on which topics, and the mediation itself, what it entails. The counselor and the qualities. In counseling marital issues, the counselor, whilst being knowledgeable of the Quranic injunctions pertaining to both spouses regarding the laws of nikah, talaq, children, and arbitration, also needs to gain experience as to how to apply discretion in taking into account the different temperaments of the spouses. So in simple terms, not all cases have the same solution. Let us now look at the role of the counselor in the mediation process. The counselor's job is not to control the lives, but merely to advise. It boils down to empowering the spouses to adjust their lives and relationships towards that which is deemed beneficial for them within the ambit of Sharia. So what are some of the initial steps in the mediation process? We need to hear both sides of the story. Always get both sides of the story in writing first. Both parties must highlight what they perceive to be wrong in their marriage. Listen to all complaints and take into account all that is written down. Once the counselor receives this, he needs to then sift through what was written by both parties to determine the extent of the problem. There is a basic guide that we can follow in this. Firstly, look at aspects wherein there are infringements of rights of either party in terms of their Shari rights and the law of the country. And these aspects must be highlighted for presentation to the couples when the meetings are held with them. Secondly, determine behavioral patterns that are considered destructive, like abuse of in any form, verbal, physical, emotional, over extended periods, or conduct unworthy of the marriage union, like adultery, drugs, gambling, pornography, etc. Then parties tend to attack one another by running down the other and making themselves look good, by covering up the entire truth, and have what is deemed a nagging pattern. It is imperative for a counselor to identify this and not to be swayed by becoming overly opinionated, by making judgments before having the entire story presented in front of himself. We must not become emotionally attached, as well as sad stories can also persuade our minds to sometimes lend inappropriate assistance, as this is a phase of vulnerability for both parties. So we will look at any Shari infringements or infringements according to the law. We will take into consider destructive behavioral patterns like abuse, drugs, etc. And also we will check if partners are running the other one down in order to gain sympathy. In other words, they need a shoulder to cry on. Next, we will look at gathering of information. It is necessary in the mediation process to find out as much about the couple as possible in order to make a correct assessment to their problem and the possible solutions. So one thing we can look at is the age of the couple. This helps to determine the mindset of the parties being addressed, to deduce as to whether it is a passing phase or something that requires more attention, or whether it's an irreparable break. Advice will be rendered accordingly to them based on this. Next, we will look at the kids, the number of children the couple have together, and the children's ages. Children get affected by marital discord, no matter the age. Never turn a blind eye to how this impacts on them. If the marital issues are not that serious, offering the couple advice to concentrate on a common goal like the kids can help them bond again. Then, how long are they married for? How many years are they married for? In a marriage that is only 3 to 6 months, long or short, the spouse will never be able to know each other in such a short period. Secondly, if a divorce occurs in that time, then it is most probably due to external factors influencing the decision. After 3 to 4 years, they should be getting to know each other and can more confidently know if they are suited to each other. By 7 years, the couple should have settled feelings for each other if they had worked through their issues. Issues are inevitable in any marriage, but working through them is the key to pass the 7-year itch. It is necessary to interview both parties. As a rule, it is important, after having received a written submission from both parties, that they be given a chance to explain themselves verbally to you, depending on the circumstances. If a problem is deemed not too serious, then both can be given the opportunity to attend the first meeting together. If the problem is deemed much more serious, then interviewing each one separately is a better option to apply, so as to give freedom to either party to express their grievances. Ultimately, both parties will meet together at some point during the different levels of consultancy at the discretion of the counselor. Now finally, we'll look at the mediation process itself and how it will be conducted. Here it is important to note that we should give each one a chance to speak uninterrupted for about 15 minutes. This is to present their case and to express themselves. It is not to respond to each other, but to give a picture of what each party perceives the problem to be. In this time, the counselor will take down notes of the serious issues like physical abuse, drug abuse, violating the rights of nikah. Look past nagging stories. The counselor needs as much information as possible to be able to give informed advice. If the spouses don't want to come together, then give them an individual hearing. Always have 2 ulama to sit in any hearing. This will prevent the counselor from being accused of bias. Be alert for women who are vulnerable. They might want to latch onto someone. If the tensions and situation is too toxic, then deal with each one individually. So gather as much information as possible, and when tensions are too high, arrange separate sittings for the couple in order to hear both sides of the story and to be able to gain a proper assessment of what the issues are and what possible solutions can be provided. Jazakallah khair for joining Al Hidayah Center for this presentation. We hope it has been informative. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وانتشت روحي وصار الدمع يجري